good morning everyone. My name is Nicole Viera and I am a second-year geology major here at the University of South Florida. You're all probably wondering what's going on with this blazer. Similar to an OTL's polo, a rotary blazer is given to exchange students to wear as our uniform. And so today I want to tell you about how I came to earn this blazer and the lessons I've learned while wearing it. So I come from a family of 3. My father served in the Navy for 22 years and his service sent my family all across the United States. Up until I was 10 years old, the longest I actually lived in a single place was for 2 years. Being so young and moving around so much really helped me adapt and develop this ability to make friends really easily. But my parents noticed that once we moved away, I wasn't able to retain these friendships. And so the second time we moved to Jacksonville, my parents decided that my mom and I would stay behind and my dad would continue moving so that I could maintain longer friendships. But ironically enough, I really came to hate such stationary living. And by the time I got to high school, I was really stir crazy and antsy and wanting to find some change in my life. And I remember by the time I was in high school, I was begging my dad to see if we could move and follow him, but they decided that we would stay. So I ended up looking for extracurricular activities and looking for organizations that I could involve myself in. And that was around the same time that I found Rotary. Rotary is an organization that has a program called Rotary Youth Exchange. And Rotary Youth Exchange sponsors high schoolers and sends them across the world for an entire year to experience cultural immersion. And I fell in love with this program immediately. And so I remember that day that they held a presentation in my class, I ran to my mom and I was begging her, asking her if I could apply for this program. And she was actually more surprised about how brave I was for applying for the program than of the program itself. But she told me no because I was so young, and I was only 14 years old at the time. But I decided to remain resilient, and for 2 more years I begged my parents until they finally saw how passionate I was about this program and allowed me to apply. So my parents actually didn't tell me this until after my exchange year, but they didn't expect me to get it. While I was social and kind, I lacked confidence and I didn't believe in myself. And so I went through this interview process and I just kind of went with the flow, and Rotary contacted me one day and they saw something within me and they gave me this blazer and told me I'd be spending a year in Japan, and my parents and I were so surprised, but I was really happy to get it. But this was 2012, and in 2011, a massive tsunami actually hit Japan. And, Japan had been too ambitious when it came to accepting exchange students, and they ended up having to cut some. And I was one of those students that they cut. But thankfully, Rotary was a program I knew that I could rely on, and they ended up sending me to Taiwan instead. And this actually ended up being the best change that happened in my life. Because if it hadn't been to going to Taiwan, I wouldn't have been able to learn that it doesn't matter where you are, it's what you make of your moment. And that it doesn't always matter what the destination is, it's what you encounter and experience along the journey. And so going to Taiwan really taught me how to be a leader, and my exchange year was so amazing, and I could talk about it forever. It's like one of my favorite things to talk about. But I really want to tell you about the lessons I learned and how it impacted me as a leader, and about the actions I commit to today. And one of those lessons that we are all human and that we are all experience and grow from the things that we encounter in life. And that it doesn't matter, not everything's going to be 100% and not everything's going to be perfect, because we all go through obstacles and we all have our flaws. But what matters is that we make the most of our moments, and that we experience more, and we just continue to grow and grow from what we endure. And I really try to be the most empathetic leader that you'll ever meet, because it's just a nice thing to do. Not only because it's a nice thing to do, but because I recognize that there are both sides to every story, not everyone's going to be perfect. And I really try to, whenever I talk to someone, I really try to transcend that message and always deliver an alternate side to a story, not just to be a devil's advocate, but to realize that, there's multiple reasons why people connect to the actions that they do. And it's important that we recognize that we all are going to have faults, and that we all just have to accept them and embrace them and grow from them and see the good in them, because we can't always change what we endure and what we encounter in life. And I'm really glad that I was able to be a part of Rotary and be able to learn these lessons, and that the things happened the way they did, because I could I could be upset that I didn't go to Japan, but instead I embraced it and I learned. And so I'm really proud that I was an exchange student. So before I wrap this up, I really want to share a quote, "Without the dark, we never see the stars." And this really reiterates and wraps up what I've been talking about today, that sometimes we have to go through something bad to realize and recognize the good that we have surrounding us, so that we can appreciate it even better. So transitioning from being a Rotary exchange student into being an orientation team leader, I really hope that all the lessons I've learned from being a part of Rotary are something that I can transition into teaching and transferring first years this summer. And I really hope that when it comes the time that I end up getting the orientation team leader polo, that I can also transition from being a Rotary leader into being an OTL leader. Thank you.